If that's Vice Mayor Strange, you'll address her properly.
You can kiss my foot.
Mr. Rickard, you're out of order.
FBI, we are asking you to investigate this council. Please look into this council, how they award contracts, the bid process, how they use their positions to benefit their friends and themselves, how they use their positions to attack residents and critics and neighbors and business competition. FBI, will you please look into this?
And I welcome the FBI here. If you notice, Mr. Thompson, with his plea for the FBI and his watchdog group, this city runs the cleanest in this whole county. I guarantee
He was served a federal subpoena this morning.
We did receive a subpoena this morning, and we're going to cooperate 100% with the subpoena. And
most of you who were involved up here, you gaslighted me. You tried to say I was crazy. And now we know that that's not true. And there's a lot of other issues I've been asking about as well.
Today could be a very big day. I'm going to share so much with you. This is going to be one of the most important shows that I can remember doing in a while. There was an arrest made today, and most people may not realize the significance that it could have. It is a Tourist Development Council, a TDC-related arrest, and I'm gonna tie a few things together for you tonight, and you tell me where you think this is headed. And I'll show you a few things first, but this is not going to be covered by the news until more people are arrested. So if you want to start catching people up on what's going on, I'm going to show you so many documents tonight. I'm going to show you so much context tonight and background into the Tourist Development Council, the County Commission, Panama City Beach, the Panama City Beach Sports Complex. You're going to be on top of it by the end of this show. And if you really want to get it down, and you're like me, and you have to hear it and think it through several times, watch this show again with a notepad and a pen and start connecting dots, and you won't believe it. I'll tell you what, tonight, there are a lot of people who aren't sleeping well after this arrest. All right, let me tell you about all this. Would you please, though, if you think anybody would be interested in this, tag them, share this show. This one definitely is going to need to get out. All right, I think what I'm going to do is begin by telling you what I'm going to tell you. Then I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I told you. That's like basically how you give a speech. All right, let's take a look at what's going on here. I want to first explain to you who was arrested. All right, so let's take a look at the Bay County Sheriff's Office. At the Bay County Sheriff's Office notice today. Who was arrested? Who was he? And what were the charges? This is incredible. So today, the financial manager for the what's known as Sports Force was arrested. Here is tonight's Bay County Sheriff's Office notice. All right. Pay close attention, especially to what's circled, but also what is underlined. The Bay County Sheriff's Office announced today the arrest of a Walton County man on charges relating to embezzlement from the Panama City Beach Sports Complex. Just last week, in early December, employees at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is the nonprofit governed by the TDC, noticed discrepancies in the accounting paperwork for the sports complex. They just noticed this. A more thorough review of the records showed what appeared to be an ongoing theft from ticket sales and monies from the complex, as well as the submission of fraudulent documentation, That's supposed to say CVB, Convention of Visitors Bureau Employees. Finding evidence of a theft, the Convention and Visitors Bureau filed a report to the sheriff's office, who began an investigation. Investigation by the Bay County Sheriff's Office revealed over the course of the last year, Darren Landry, financial manager for the sports complex, had been embezzling funds totaling about $37,000. Look at this. As part of his daily job, Landry was in charge of the proceeds taken in by the complex. Here's the good part, and had access to all funds and accounting documents. Investigators believe Landry was changing the amount of the money taken in at the complex on the accounting documentation to hide the amount of money he was taking. Warrants were obtained by Landry. Okay, so he was not charged for embezzlement, was he? He was charged, look again up top, charges relating to embezzlement. Those words are important. So now, here's what I want to talk to you about tonight. This is so big. The Tourist Development Council, the TDC, is the governing body for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the CVB, also known as Visit PCB. The CVB is a nonprofit owned by Bay County, and it's funded by tax dollars. County Commissioner Griff Griffiths is a board member on the TDC. The TDC hired a contractor, Sports Force, to market and run the PCB sports complex. The financial manager arrested today on charges relating to embezzlement worked for the contractor, Sports Force. The TDC canceled their October meeting at the last minute. It happened to be scheduled at the same time the grand jury met. Today's arrest could simply just be one bad apple, or it could be the beginning of a massive investigation into the corruption at the corrupt TDC and its $19 million annual budget. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to show you some. I'm going to show you some background that you're absolutely not going to believe right after this.
Have you received a speeding ticket for which you want no points placed onto your driving record? I'm El Saulene, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
Okay, so more than a year ago, I did a pretty comprehensive story on the sports complex and the TDC. You ready for this? Here is that story. I called it "What a Racket." All right, let me make sure I have everything set up for you so you don't miss a thing. Let's put it like this. I think that'll be good. Now let's do the whole thing. All right. Take a listen to this. Local government bodies worked together to build this sports park. There are baseball fields and soccer fields where a forest used to be. The project was so expensive, they had to get $50 million in bonds. And to secure a better interest rate, the Bay County Commission had to sue you. In 2017, Judge James Fensom issued an order to validate the $50 million bonds. And now, for the first time, you're going to see how the racket was played, the conflicts of interest, and who got the big contracts. The county filed the lawsuit to improve the creditworthiness of the bonds and to seek a lower interest rate. As shocking as it sounds for the county to sue us, they say it's commonplace throughout the state. That's true for larger communities like Orange County, but the attorney Bay County hired to file the lawsuit against us said he can't remember it being done for the past 25 years in the Panhandle. Bay County manager Bob Micah said it's never been done before in Bay County. The idea for a sports complex was floated by local attorney William Harrison, who was the county commission's paid lobbyist. In 2015, County Manager Bob Micah paid a former St. Joe executive named Jerry Ray and William Harrison $99,000 to rebrand the area as Spring Break was being dismantled. William Harrison fancies himself a local kingmaker. In 2016, he was the campaign manager for Mike Thomas, who became the mayor of Panama City Beach for 4 years. William Harrison was also the lobbyist for the St. Joe Company. St. Joe donated the swampy land for the sports complex to Bay County in 2014. Bay County turned around and rented that land to the PCB Convention and Visitors Bureau for $1 a year for 99 years. The CVB is governed by the Tourist Development Council. The president of the TDC is this man, Dan Rowe, and he's been pushing for the sports complex for quite a while. After the sports complex was approved, they needed a project manager. Commissioner Robert Carroll was a qualified candidate in 2016.
I believe we should get value out of government. I'm a civil engineer, not a politician. I design solutions to problems like transportation, utility, and infrastructure. I'll bring that expertise to the county commission, helping us plan better, grow smarter, and build a better Bay County.
He's part of the project management team selected by the TDC. He's vice president of McNeil Carroll Engineering. He was hired by Brittany Trumbull, who is married to State Representative Jay Trumbull. She owns Anchor CEI. The TDC unanimously voted to award Anchor CEI the big project management contract over the more experienced Reliant South owned by Richard Dodd. Even though her company was less than a year old, Robert Carroll assured the TDC that they had 75 years worth of experience. Members of the TDC like Robert Carroll. In fact, they like him so much that some of them made max donations to his political campaign the following week. Walsingham gave $1,000. Griffiths gave $500 the same day Walsingham did. Petronas gave $500. Robert Carroll also got more political contributions from the usual suspects who would be involved in the sports complex. The St. Joe Company gave $1,000. Their lobbyist, William Harrison, gave $1,000. James Finch, $1,000. Of course, GAC gave $1,000, as did their owners. Derwin White's personal attorney, Adam Albritton, gave $500. He's also the city attorney in Lynn Haven. The list goes on and on. Back in 2016, John Henderson was the beat reporter for the News Herald. He was surprised how incestuous everything was. He wondered how these conflicts of interest would play out. He even tweeted about it. But News Herald editor Mike Cascazales would not let him cover it. Other than me, the local news outlets ignored it completely. I was so concerned at the time that I dubbed Robert Carroll the conflict of interest candidate. And he wasn't happy about it. In fact, he was mad at me. His campaign manager, Arthur Cullen, told me that I was being unfair because Robert Carroll wouldn't vote on anything his company was involved in. Well, he has, and he continues to do so. During the bid process, Mrs. Trumbull's company told the TDC that they had unique funding access. She was right. Even at her office, she doesn't have far to walk to lobby her state representative. Her husband actually filed a House bill in 2017 seeking taxpayer money for the water system at the sports complex. It ended up dying in committee, but Trumbull filed the bill after his wife's company lobbied him to do so. Next, I'll tell you the rest of the story, including how State Senator George Gaynor, Lynn Haven attorney Adam Albritton, and former PCB city manager Mario Gisbert were all involved to make this racket a reality.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. All right, turn on my mic. Oh boy. So what I was saying is, and this is really super important, since that video that you just saw, Adam Albritton has been arrested and is now cooperating with authorities. James Finch has been arrested and is due to stand trial in March, I believe. And then you also have Jay Trumbull, State Representative Trumbull's father-in-law, is Judge Fischel. Judge Fischel has submitted his resignation. A couple of months ago, there was a story that came out that the FBI is now investigating judges, and they're investigating the judges' businesses, relationships. This is throughout, especially Northwest Florida, their family's business interests, and looking at their rulings and seeing if there might be any connections. All right. Pretty interesting stuff. And just before Judge Fischel submitted his resignation, a few months before, he recused himself from any case that involving municipal attorney Cole Son Davis and his law firm, which he's a partner on now, Hand, Arundel, and Sale. So let's get to this, and I'm going to show you so much more tonight. You're not going to believe it. It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. So remember, the guy who was arrested today, all right, let's remember this. He was the financial manager for the sports complex, all right? And he worked for a contractor called Sports Force, which was hired by the TDC, the Tourist Development Council. Now, I told you, now look at this. He was charged, arrested on charges relating to embezzlement. Relating to embezzlement. He also had access to all the funds and accounting documents. I said earlier that the Panama City Beach Convention and Visitors Bureau, the nonprofit, I said it was owned by Bay County. No, it's owned by Dan Rowe, the president of the CVB, and the governing body is the TDC. They make it like this when I say the insiders who are lining their pockets with this massive slush fund that now has a $19 million annual budget. They make it complex like this so that they think they have, they basically have walls between them, right? But remember this, whenever you are investigating, whenever you are looking into public corruption, I want you to remember 3 words. Complexity masks fraud, okay? Complexity masks fraud. They like to say it's very complex, and they make it so. So now you saw a lot of the ties of the sports complex. I've told you for now more than a year that the TDC awards $1.5 million a year to the current mayor of Panama City Beach, Mark Money Mover Sheldon. Half of that money, he has to use for marketing because he's the owner of Gulf Coast Jam and Sand Jam, the concerts that keep getting canceled. So he's the owner of those. Our mayor is also the concert promoter, and he gets $1.5 million a year from the Tourist Development Council. He has to spend half of that money on marketing, and he spends it on things like the parent companies of the local news stations so that the local news stations won't dare report anything because they don't want to lose that money, right? They're essentially public-private partners. So let's recap how Panama City Beach Mayor Mark Sheldon is connected in all of this. This is a report I did, close to a year ago. God, you're not going to believe what I'm about to show you. All right, here we go. A mayor of any city to get paid tax money to promote his own concerts.
Most voters disagreed with me. After all, Mark Sheldon's been doing this stuff for a long time. Here he is in Alabama about a decade ago. He worked for this man, Ronnie Gilly. Mark Sheldon was the registered agent.
Let's start
for
this
Ronnie
at the
Gilly.
beginning.
Sheldon is the big concert promoter for the city of Panama City Beach. The Tourist Development Council pays his company more than $700,000 a year to market his own music festivals. He's also the mayor. Last week, the council voted unanimously to extend his Sand Jam concert for 5 more years. But here's the kicker. The city also guaranteed that Mayor Sheldon would be in charge of the music festivals, even if he sells them to a big corporate entity for millions of dollars. It's known as the key person provision, and now it's part of the contract.
So I'm going to forward this part right here.
I've argued that it's a conflict of interest for a mayor of any city to get paid tax money to promote his own concerts. Most voters disagreed with me. After all, Mark Sheldon's been doing this stuff for a long time. Here he is in Alabama about a decade ago. He worked for this man, Ronnie Gilly. Mark Sheldon was the registered agent for Ronnie Gilly Properties, and he was Gilly's chief operating officer. Soon afterward, there was a public corruption sting, and Ronnie Gilly went to prison for nearly 7 years.
We're absolutely excited. I mean, the project that Ronnie's put together is phenomenal. It's hiring and employing a lot of local folks, a lot of people that haven't been to having a job for a little while. Obviously, the economy stuff, and there's people that was just, on the job site this morning, and the man telling me, thank Mr. Gilly, I haven't had a job in 4 months. So it's great to see people that are actually from our local area getting the opportunity to go to work again, and that's everything that Ronnie's done for it. It's an amazing project.
The year before Ronnie Gilly was busted, Mark Sheldon served on a public board that voted to buy 52 acres of land for country crossing improvements. Oh, and they voted to buy the land from Ronnie Gilly himself. You can see Mark Sheldon here orchestrating the yeses.
For the 5 board members present, in order to proceed with today's meeting.
This is another meeting. Just before it's called to order, he whispers something to a fellow board member. That's Chuck Taylor, the CFO for Ronnie Gilly. He did all the accounting, and they're about to vote.
I'm ready.
Maybe he's not like that anymore. At any rate, Mark Sheldon escaped the dragnet in Alabama, spruced up his image, and came to Panama City Beach.
Please do not miss the official city Christmas tree put up by the Tourist Development Council. This year, the official tree is in the open area of the municipal complex in front of City Hall, and it's visible from Back Beach Road. There's parking if you want to get a family photo with the tree and the 12 reindeer out front.
In 2015, the Tourist Development Council gave him $1.7 million to start up the music festivals here, and they pay his annual marketing budget, $750,000. They set it up to split the profits. 2 of his fellow councilmen now serve on the TDC. That's where they vote to keep the money flowing. Then they come back to the council, where they just made sure that even if Mayor Sheldon sells his concerts to a big corporation, he's still the head honcho.
Nice work if you can get it.
It's fine work.
And you can get it if you try.
I got connections too.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777.
Pretty amazing, isn't it? I'm going to recap all of this for you in just a moment. But the most important thing to know, in fact, let's recap now. All right. So the Tourist Development Council, remember, complexity masks fraud. Part of the reason they put so many layers between these governing boards, like the County Commission and Panama City Beach, and then they have the nonprofits, and then the nonprofits hire contractors, and then they think that that's a fire shield, but it's not a fire shield. They think it makes them twice as safe. It doesn't make them twice as safe. It makes it 10 times twice as dangerous for them. They just don't know it yet.
So the Tourist Development Council, the TDC, is the governing body for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, also known as the Visit PCB. The CVB is a nonprofit owned by Dan Rowe. All right. He's the president of it. I was wrong here, but it is funded by tax dollars. Let's take a look at this nonprofit. What do you say? All right. So we go to sunbiz.org. That's where we go to look at the nonprofit. Here it is. Sunbiz.org is where you look for it. Here is the nonprofit that is governed by the TDC. I want you to make sure you see this. Well, there you go. Okay. So take a look at this. It's called the Panama City Beach Convention and Visitors Bureau, the CVB. All right. It's active. Dan Rowe is the president of the TDC and the registered agent of the nonprofit that the TDC governs. Look at the names of the officers. You ready for this? Let's look at the names that we recognize that are public figures. There, look at that. Title Director Phil Chester. He is a current member of the Panama City Beach City Council. He had to turn his phone over to the FBI last year. He was ensnared in the federal subpoena in the city of Panama City Beach. Look at this. Title Director, County Commissioner Griff Griffiths. Title Director, former mayor of Panama City Beach, Mike Pay-to-Play Thomas. He's a title member of the nonprofit governed by the TDC. So what I'm suggesting is, well, let's go through these bullet points again, because I know there's a lot here. So that's who the TDC is. That was what I just showed you as the nonprofit owned by Dan Rowe, not Bay County. Bay County collects the bed taxes and allocates it according to the TDC's vote, and then the county approves it. County Commissioner Griff Griffiths is a board member on the TDC. The TDC hired a contractor, Sports Force, to market and run the PCB sports complex. The financial manager arrested today on charges relating to embezzlement worked for the contractor, Sports Force. This dude he was in charge of all of the accounting documents. He was in charge of all of that stuff. You think he knows some stuff? You think he might be willing to talk? The TDC canceled their October meeting at the last minute last year in October, just a few months ago. It happened to be scheduled at the same time that the grand jury met. Maybe it was just a coincidence. So today's arrest could simply be just one bad apple, or it could be the beginning of a massive investigation into the corrupt TDC and its $19 million annual budget. It could be. And if I were a betting man, and I am, I think it's exactly that.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
So when I tell you that the TDC canceled at the very last minute, they meet once a month, okay? And in October, I decided to go to the TDC. For the very first time, I showed up at the meeting. I showed up about 6 minutes late. But when I got there, the clerk at the desk said they didn't show up. We were all ready. We had everything ready. They didn't show up. I found out later they had a last minute cancellation. So this was me when I left. Well, I'm all dressed up with nowhere to go. It is a little past 9:30 in the morning. I was going to attend the Tourist Development Council meeting for the first time. I had a few questions about Mayor Mark Sheldon and the more than $1 million a year he receives from the TDC in order to run the music festivals. And I wanted to get a public record request about where that money's spent. Some of it is marketing money, some of it is sponsorship money. And in total, it could be as much as $10 million Mayor Sheldon's companies have received to put on those two music festivals since 2015, when they received $1.7 million to kick off his companies. It's the longest startup money I ever heard of. It's like the Solyndra of the music festivals. But I don't want to get into that right now. What I want to tell you is that I showed up at the City Hall to attend my first Tourist Development Council meeting. And guess what happened? I showed up at about 9:06. The meeting started at 9. Only it didn't start at 9. The Tourist Development Council had a scheduled meeting today and did not show up. There were no shows. As a matter of fact, City Hall didn't even know until right at the beginning of when the meeting was supposed to begin. Now, I don't know what's going on. This is highly unusual for the TDC, composed of 9 members, and their legal counsel is Doug Sale of Hand, Arundel, McCloy, and Sale, I believe, something like that. But the website is Hand Firm. Cole Davis is a partner there. In fact, his email address is coledavis@handfirm.com. I'm not joking. That's the website. I mean, that's the email. Don't look at me. So you can see all of how everything's attached. The corruption is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. We're very, very fortunate that all of Bay County is being looked at very, very closely by the FBI and by the Sheriff's Office. So today's arrest it could be just one bad apple who happens to have all of the accounting documents for Sports Force, the contractor hired by the TDC to run and to market the PCB Sports Complex, which itself is such a racket. So I know this has been a lot of information. I hope that you'll share this information, because the local news outlets are going to do all they can to hide it, because they get some of this money. They get some of the TDC money that Mayor Mark Sheldon gets because he owns the concerts. And then he takes about $735,000, takes some of that money and pays the local news parent companies. How about that? All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I think that's enough for today. I hope that you will share this. I hope that you'll go to YouTube. This also airs live on YouTube. I haven't done a lot on YouTube over the years, but I sure would like to grow that channel. So if you want to make an old man happy, you can go to YouTube and subscribe to the Bernie Thompson Show on YouTube. I sure hope that you'll do that. That'll help me get the word out as well. And of course, if you haven't already liked and followed me here on Facebook, that also helps. If you're wondering how I can do this, it's because I'm independent. And if you'd like to support my efforts, you can do that by becoming a patron, as little as $5 a month. Think of it like a tip. And it's easy. It's anonymous. And you can quit at any time. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. And a big thank you to yet another sponsor, The Unknown Patriot. The Unknown Patriot, thank you so much for supporting my efforts. I have so much for you. The next city council meeting is this Thursday morning at 9 a.m. They're going to try to make 27 changes to the city charter. The city charter is like the constitution of the city. And they want to make 27 changes. They want to make it so they don't have to vote on a lot of spending. They want to increase the spending amount that the city manager can make without us knowing. They want to make it harder to fire the city manager now. Believe it or not, they want to make it harder after they fired the last city manager for blowing the whistle on corruption, which has led to the massive whistleblower lawsuit on the city right now. They want to make it harder for their guy that they installed to get fired. Remember, the entire city of Panama City Beach has been subpoenaed. Every single member of that council since January of 2016 had to turn their phones over and be searched by the FBI. And it continues. All right. I got a lot for you this week, and I'll be bringing it to you soon. Thank you for being with me.